Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to the weekend. Good morning, good afternoon to you out there. It is 11:29 a.m. California time here, May 31st, 2025, the last day of May. And got a little bit of earthquake activity ramping up here following a massive flare from last night. Although the latest earthquake here shows a 1.6 up into the Alaska area. We'll get to this here as far as earthquake activity goes in just a minute. I do want to cover the space weather activity that's been ramping up here, including getting bombarded here with protons right now. This kicked up late last night, early this morning. I was watching for that. And of course, following the arrival of all these protons slamming into the planet at the speed of light, well, earthquake activity has ramped up since the arrival of the protons there. So that's a massive flare that we had last night, almost close to an X flare, a long duration M flare from pretty much a directly lined up sunspot facing the Earth here. And that produced a significant CME. That significant CME is going to stir up some auroras here, most likely starting tomorrow night. So Sunday night, excuse me. Sunday night is going to be a night to watch. Check this out. This is the Space Weather Prediction Center forecast. Here's the sun in the yellow, Earth in the green. Watch this massive CME, Earth directed right here, getting a decent shot of plasma, heavy density plasma, and also elevated high speed with that plasma. Way up there, around 1,000 kms a second, and that's fairly significant. So this is going to slam into the planet here tomorrow night. Could be potentially early evening tomorrow, but either way, looks like we may have a significant aurora event coming up here for quite a few viewers, maybe even down into some of the middle latitudes. But look at that decent shot of plasma right here from that CME. Boom. Hits the Earth, pretty solid. It's a full halo CME, so it's not going to miss us. Ones like that are normally fairly significant and do stir up the auroras quite a bit. Maybe we'll see something similar to what we had back last year. Was it May of last year? May have been, early May. We had the auroras down here in Northern California. So G4 class storm, that's fairly significant. That may pop up into a G5 storm. The way the magnetic field here has been acting recently, I wouldn't doubt it if this does increase a little bit. But that's also dependent on the BT-BZ component of the interplanetary magnetic field, whether we get the auroras going crazy, or if it's going to be suppressed. Either way, we'll watch that tomorrow. The detailed forecast for the auroras tonight, not a whole lot going on, very minimal. Here's tomorrow night's forecast. KP index up around 7, but again, that is expected to increase around a KP index of 8 or so with a G4 class storm that's forecasted here from the Space Weather Prediction Center. Here's the view line. This is just your standard textbook forecast, so to speak, here for a G3 class storm. The G4 class storm is going to be a little bit lower, and if this turns into something stronger, obviously we could see it back down into Northern California, Texas. I don't know if we're going to see it in Florida and Mexico like we had back in May of last year, but it's something to watch pretty closely here. It's definitely a solid shot of plasma that blasted off the sun at a very high rate of speed, and that will slam into the planet here tomorrow night with some decent storming. I will definitely be out there tomorrow night looking for that. Also, we are getting bombarded here with protons. That's what's stirring up right now, mainly across the northern area here of the planet, a little bit down south as well. This could further escalate earthquake activity. I try to relate the two in terms of space weather activity and an increase in earthquake activity here on the planet. And I've compared when we get hit with a CME. I've compared when there's just a solar flare with no massive bombardment of solar protons, charged protons there from the sun. And the relationship between earthquake activity and space weather activity seems to be more elevated when there's proton events slamming into the planet, such as what we've seen here last night, this morning, and still ongoing. And that's what we're seeing here on the map. Let me go over here to the USGS map and show you guys the increase in earthquake activity happening since that bombardment of protons here. It looks like this all started off here about 1 o'clock this morning or so when the proton event slammed into the planet with a 6-pointer up here at the southern end of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. That just off the coast there of Japan. Also another 6-pointer down here across the Kermadec Islands for a 6.1, about 6 miles deep or so in this area. And now we got some movement there in Northern California starting to stir up around the Clear Lake Volcanic Field. That's the hydrothermal plants out there, 3.4 in the last hour. So it looks like those protons are getting things moving out here. It's just, I'm trying to keep a total tally here in my notebook of space weather events and what happens following the arrival of space weather events. And so far it's looking more and more likely. I've only been studying or keeping track of this since last year. I want to make this a long-term trend here and see if we can really relate the two. There's definitely some speculation. There's theories out there stating that space weather activity directly affects earthquake uptick here on the planet. But from what I'm so far early into it, the proton events seem to be the triggering item there as far as elevated earthquake activity goes. So we'll watch that. We're getting bombarded again. Well, we have been since last night. A couple more M flares in there as well. If you look at the solar X-ray flux chart, since that large M flare, we've seen 1, 2, 3 other decent impulsive M flares. When it's like this, the likelihood of an X flare kicking up is quite high. So let's take a look at that sunspot that's been throwing off these flares left and right, including that massive CME. That's going to be 4100. Now, the most recent imagery does show that sunspot area directly facing us, and wow, is it geo-effective. If anything else blasts off of there, it will almost certainly hit us squared on. A couple different newer areas up north that are showing some growth within that sunspot region. It's in position, like I say, if it were to produce an X flare and another CME, it directly hit us. This area down here as well, away from that main region, is starting to show a little bit of complexity, wrapping up a little bit, looks like. But the main area of concern for some stronger flaring is going to be this region right here. Center disk directly looking at us here, 4100. There's our G4 class storm forecast there for the UTC date of June 2nd. So that would put us at tomorrow night. These guys, he hasn't updated this yet. Kevin, is a busy man. He probably hasn't got around to this yet, but this will change once he does get into the forecast. This is just a direct link from the Space Weather Prediction Center that shows the forecast there for tomorrow night. But again, we're supposed to be above that level. This is just for a G3 class storm. It's supposed to be up around the G4 or so, and maybe even higher. So we do have an elevated flare threat, 25% chance there for X flare, M flare at 60. Proton event has been raised up to about 75% chance or so. That's happening right now, and I think as those continue, we'll see our chances here of elevated earthquake activity. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here back across the area. As I noted, 2 6-pointers. There was a number of 5-pointers as well. Looks like a 5.3 down across the South Sandwich Trench late last night as well upon the arrival of that high-speed proton bombardment. It does shoot off there from those solar flares in the sun at the speed of light. It's moving up into Washington, it looks like, although I think these are from yesterday. Let me see what we got up here. Yeah, the majority of these from yesterday. Nothing new to report there for now across Washington. Northern California has backed off for earthquake activity as well, and that is due to, well, the tremor activity. Let me show you guys the tremor map here from yesterday. Make sure the bells are off, which they are. Tremor activity has gone down to 24 epicenters of tremor just underneath the southwestern area here of Oregon, underneath this area into the Cascadia subduction zone, about 45 kilometers or so underneath this area. This is a low number compared to what we had here in the past month or so, with over 11,000 epicenters of tremor, resulting in elevated earthquake activity upstream here across Northern California. So that tremor activity has all but completely died off, and that is matching what we're seeing here as far as lack of earthquake activity upstream, where we would expect strain and stress quakes to be produced there following that elevated tremor, right? Tremor activity is a sign that the Juan de Fuca plate here as a whole, right? There's actually 3 separate plates here, but the Juan de Fuca plate as a whole is being pushed further down there, deeper underneath the North American plate. It's a low-frequency vibration that's picked up by very sensitive equipment, and it's not an earthquake. It's just a slow slip event, so to speak. And again, that's a sign that stress is building up here across the locked area. We've seen that with a number of earthquakes out here across Northern California, and now that the tremor has halted. The earthquake activity has halted out here across a good portion of the West Coast. So we'll watch for that. I'm thinking the tremor activity is going to be back to zero with no earthquake activity happening. There's no signs of any strain. Well, there's obviously always strain, right? But when we're pushing that plate further and further down underneath this area, that's just adding further stress and strain and producing these stress quakes that we've been seeing there. But I think it may be at zero tonight. We'll have to check that. It doesn't come out until about 7 o'clock this evening as far as the tremor counts go. Here's movement along the Bay Area. Got a number of earthquakes there kicking up about 2 o'clock this morning as well, following the proton event from the sun. A 2.1 and a 2-pointer kind of spread out here, really not on any specific faults. As far as a linear fashion goes, it's more or less spread out across a couple different faults. So that tells me right there that this area is quite strained. If we're just looking at the northern areas here, seeing some earthquake activity across various faults here. The Bay Area, of course, has been super quiet, but watch this closely here with this type of event. I mean, it's just spreading out kind of odd all across this area. So that makes me think this area right here in general may be getting ready to let loose a little bit. Of course, the Hayward Fault, well overdue for some large earthquake activity. That's been talked about for quite a while. It's past the regular occurrence interval of large quakes there on the Hayward Fault. We're coming up. Continue to just watch this and be on guard, folks. If you live out there in the Bay Area or anywhere in Northern California, Southern California, Central California, anywhere that's earthquake prone, you want to download. This ain't a sale or a gimmick. This is just something you need to have on your phone. The MyShake Early Alert Notification System. It's free. It will let you know to be ready to expect some shaking if there's a large earthquake in your area. It gave me a 20-second notification up here in Northern California from that 7-pointer that struck here back in December. I live just outside of Chico, so the waves do take a little time to travel. 20 seconds is when from the time I got that alert from the MyShake Early Alert System to the time I felt some rolling and some decent shaking here in Northern California from that 7-pointer. So you definitely want to have it. It's not, there's no ads on it. It's not always popping up. It's just it's a very beneficial app. If we live out here in earthquake country, we need to have it. The rest of California here, Southern California, pretty spotty. Not a whole lot going on there for now. It looks like most of the activity has shifted from the north down across the Bay Area. Like I say, we need to watch that pretty closely there. Southern California, though, in general, nothing above 2.5 down here. There's that 3-pointer from yesterday in Concord. So smaller microquake activity out there across Southern California today. No major swarms going on there across Southern California. A little bit, though, out there across northwestern or outside of Las Vegas to the northwest. I believe this is where they had that nuclear test and whatnot many decades ago. Possibly. There's a whole bunch of little small microquakes out there, and it's been off and on out there in that area of the desert of Nevada for a little while. Quite a few different interesting events, and like I say, I think that is the area where they did some military testing and whatnot, but not 100% certain. Either way, that's a little active out there. Oil fields of Texas starting to show some strain out there as well with a 3-pointer this morning outside of Pecos, Texas. There's a tremendous amount of oil fields out here. Kind of hard to see in the map here, but they're lined up literally like houses out here. All these oil and fracking pads and wastewater injection ponds out there, they're all over the place. And earthquake activity is, well, that's where it's at, out there in the oil fields, specifically around this area. So I don't know if they're maybe doing something new out here. Let me see here. Maybe there's some new plants that have not been listed up here on the map yet, potentially, because all these earthquakes are showing up where there's no oil pumping operations there, at least listed on the satellite view. But yeah, like I say, it's possible. They're always expanding out there, but there's thousands upon thousands of them. And there's another little spot too, surrounded by many operations out there. There's the holding tanks and whatnot. All right, that will continue. That's going to continue for sure. Some of those earthquakes out there in Texas and Oklahoma can get up in the upper 5 range when things really get going out there in the oil fields. New Madrid seismic zone 1 earthquake out here this morning. Seems like right about the time when that proton event stirred up, about 1 o'clock in the morning or so. 2.2 earthquake out in Missouri, Gainesville, Missouri, it looks like. Another earthquake over here across the North Carolina region, just after 11 or so, 2.1. So for larger activity, we noted these 6-pointers stirring up. Still watching the Nankai Trough here, this subduction zone. Man, it's got activity all over it. Well, all around it, I should say. We had this little deeper quake here yesterday, a little 3.5 right on it. And that's just a subduction zone there that I feel is coming up here for a large mega quake. In fact, this is a subduction zone that the Japanese Meteorological Agency there put a mega quake warning out for last year because of all the earthquake activity happening down south and all the movement that was happening up here across the Izu Trench, applying strain and pressure within that subduction zone. The last rupture here of 4 areas was back in 1944, leaving this section out here. Haven't had a rupture in this area, section E, since I think it was about 1857 or so. So it's very possible we could see some larger earthquake activity there. Following that 6-pointer, a number of 4s out there. This area of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench is very capable of producing large magnitudes, something well above a 6-pointer, that's for sure. Now, we can go back here and look real quick. I'm going to show you guys. Go back, take a little trip through time on this Saturday. Hope everyone's enjoying their weekend. It's going to be a hot one out here in Northern California. 107 expected today, but we'll get to the weather here in a little bit. I'm going to draw just a little area out here across the Kuril-Kamchatka, but I'm also going to include the Japan Trench as well. So, of course, 2011, right? That big earthquake back in that time period for 9.1. That happened on the Japan Trench area, which is right here. Not associated with the Kuril-Kamchatka up here. So this area northward is very primed for some larger earthquake activity. Not really too concerned with the Japan Trench, even though they can see large earthquake activity at any given time. A 9-pointer back in 1952 up here across the northern end of the Kuril-Kamchatka. 8.5, 1963. Roughly about, it's close to the area where we're seeing that swarming right now. 8.4 back in 1933. That was along the Japan Trench. But a lot of the point here is that there's a lot of 8-pointers that can happen here. Almost looks like that 8-pointer right there back in 1994 is very close to the earthquake activity we're seeing today. But it looks like some time has passed since we've had a decent 8-pointer. There's an 8-pointer back in 2007 right in the center portion. So we may be coming up here for some larger earthquake activity across that region of the that subduction zone. It's a Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. It's It's a major subduction zone area that accumulates quite a bit of strain out here in a short amount of time period. On average, 83 mm per year. That varies, though, up and down the area depending on which subduction area it's accumulating at, but that's just on average. A lot higher than up across the Aleutian Trench, and even beats the Peru-Chile Trench down here. So watch the Curl Kamchatka, definitely showing some interesting activity out there. But also at the same time, you know, all this movement that heads off to the west-northwest is further stressing this area down here, the Nankai Trough. Number of aftershocks from that 6-pointer there in the Kermadec Islands this morning. 4.8 and a 4.8. 4.8 and a 4.6, excuse me. Let's see. New Zealand down here, number of 3s popping up, it looks like, starting to move down here across New Zealand. Nothing big for now, but it's got some potential for sure. Typical movement here across the crunch zone for now. Some minimal activity up north into China. Mediterranean area is fairly quiet aside from a couple 2s out there today. A lot of that from yesterday. Nothing new to report across the Atlantic. Let's see here. We got a little bit of activity off the coast here of Mexico into this fracture boundary again. That's going to be right about here. USGS not showing that movement today, but there's another 4-pointer, it looks like, right there on the map. That's been very active here with a number of earthquakes in the upper 5 range. Can't really say there's been any main quake out there yet. You know, this could be easily something of foreshock nature out there. It's not a subduction zone. It's not set up out there, at least in this area. Further to the east here, we begin the Middle America Trench, so that may be putting some strain up here across this area. Either way, keep an eye on that. It's been quite active. Let's see what else we got. Hawaii out there is probably building up for the next eruption. 3.3 up into the Alaska area right now as well. Let's see here. I should have refreshed already. I guess there we go. That's nowhere near the Anchorage area. Looks like around the Cook Inlet. 3.3, 80 miles deep underneath this area. Quick glance at the Kilauea volcano and the inflation data, deformation data. Still going up here since our last eruption. Here's a pause back on the 26th, going up and up and up. Not 100% certain we're at a level where we're going to see an eruption right now. I think we got another day or two to build up enough magma underneath this area for an eruption. Still quite a bit of volcanic gases out there, but it's been doing this for the last 24 episodes. Rinse and repeat out there across Kilauea volcano. This last one was spectacular, though. Confirmed fountaining heights there was at 1,200 feet. So yeah, that'd be a sight to see if you were obviously safely at a distance, but pretty spectacular to say the least. So we'll see that kick back up probably here in a couple days or so. Let's see what else we got. Real quick glance here at the space weather once again. I don't see anything major flaring right now, but we'll keep an eye there on a number of those sunspots. And again, G4 class storm coming up. Definitely could see the auroras down across some major areas, lower towards the middle latitude areas. There's our proton event still continuing. And most of the time during these large flares and subsequent CME eruptions there, we get proton events that last for a number of days. We'll see how long that one lasts, along with elevated earthquake activity. So just be on guard. We will catch you. We'll continue to watch that throughout the day today. Severe weather outlook here. Let's take a look here at Oklahoma. Got a little bit of tornado threat out there today around the OKC area, stretching up into Kansas around Wichita. A little bit of wind and some hail threats out there as well. Out here in Northern California, we got it was warm yesterday, but what was weird is here in the Sacramento Valley where I'm at, Um, we got a lot of rice fields out here, and literally we were supposed to be up around 107, 108 yesterday. We only topped out here where I'm at around 95 degrees, which one would think, wow, that's nice and cool compared to 107. Well, that wasn't the case because we had dew points in the lower 70s out here. That's something that you would see along the Gulf Coast states. And humidity elevated as well. So the more moisture that's in the air, that's you can't heat it up as much. So that's why we stayed relatively cooler down here across where I'm at, just outside of Chico. It's hot up in Redding. They had some lower dew points, so of course the temperature is going to rise. But it was just crazy how much elevated the dew points were yesterday, and this model was not even showing anything to what was actually happening out here. I guess it's still going to be a little bit on the dewy side, I should say. They're showing 43. Let me see. I was just looking on my weather station here that I have in my backyard, and the dew point is 67 degrees, and that's still very muggy. So I don't think we're going to hit our 100 and I think it's supposed to be 106 today. It's going to be hot, but with that humidity and elevated dew point, it's going to prevent us from getting way up there above 100. But at the same time, man, everything is it's muggy. It is. It's the rice fields out here have a lot to do with it when the sun's beating down on that thousands of acres of water that are out there. It kind of makes it feel a little bit like down there. Although these guys are cooler. I wouldn't mind 84 degrees or even 79 around Lake Jackson. That would be kind of cool. Either way, we got heat to deal with, and then it cools down into kind of cools down into the upper 90s out here. It's looking miserable here for the extended forecast. I don't see any slight cool down at all. They were talking about some low pressure coming down here after today, but that has since dissipated. If anything, maybe down in Southern California, but high pressure sits back in there across the West Coast for the foreseeable future. I think we're going to be 100 degrees or higher for a good portion of the June month coming up. Did you hear? I think we got a fire going on out there as well already. Already got fires going on. It's just not good. So there is a couple different fires there in Southern California. We got a new fire starting up here in the last 3 minutes. State Street fire, looks like somebody's field out there. But this one's somewhat of a bigger one outside of the Yucca Valley area called the Eureka fire. 212 acres burning out there. It's just weird how these fires start out on the little dirt roads, right? This has potential to head north into populated areas as well, up around the Yucca Valley area, so hopefully they get a containment on that. There is still some hot spots being observed there on the satellite imagery. What's this fire down here? Henderson fire. It's weird, just starting up out of the blue. Bunch of warnings out here, evacuation warnings and orders. There's hotspot imagery there showing some ongoing fire conditions there from the Henderson fire. That's in Riverside and San Diego County area. 300 acres, 15% containment. So it's beginning. It is beginning, folks. Nothing up here in Northern California yet. Well, what do we got up here? Ah, man. Yeah, look at that. Magic fire out in the middle of nowhere. How did that start out there? Come on. Looks like off of a road where people may live there. Not the time to be burning. Not the time to be mowing grass out here in the field. Either way, I think it's going to be a busy fire season out here, folks. So we'll continue to cover that as well. I'll include that towards the end of the update videos on a daily, schedule. And up in Canada, they got some big ones up there as well. A lot of smoke coming down from the north into the States. It's just a crazy, crazy start to 2025. Not really. We're almost halfway through 2025 here. May, June, yeah. It just seems like it's been super busy out here with a lot of stuff going on. All right, seismograph stations. What do we got? Nothing major going on there. A little couple spikes there on Barrett Station. That's in Southern California. Aside from that, let's go check out Yellowstone. I completely forgot Yellowstone here. I do like to double check the seismograph stations here. There's a 6-pointer showing up on one of the seismograph stations here about 2 in the morning. I believe that was the earthquake in Japan, if I remember right. 6-pointer about 2 in the morning or so. Yep, 1:30 my time, but mountain time over here would be 2:30 for the mountain area, mountain time frame, time zone. All right, I'm out of here, folks. Have yourself a good day. I'm just going to stay inside, or maybe I'll be out in the pool a little bit later, but it's just one of those days where I don't feel like walking outside, just sweating instantly. Just going to stay inside here in the computer room and watch everything that's going on. Have a good one. We'll see you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening for the Saturday night update, unless something major happens between now and then. Have a good one. Stay safe.